What's up guys, BMR here, and today we're going to talk about the Atomic DRZ version 2.1 limited edition chassis, and I want to build this on camera for you guys, and also want to give you guys some setup tips and advice, as well as my approach to building a chassis. What do I do? What do I focus on? But real quick before we get into all this, I want to apologize for my voice. I've been sick for a couple weeks, been fighting a cold, and also have really bad allergies out here in California. It's been absolutely terrible, so this video has been postponed long enough due to phlegm, but now we're going to get this thing out. So anyways, the format for this video is going to be, I want to talk about the chassis a little bit, and then we'll go into the build. So I'm actually going to build this step by step on camera with you guys, and I'm going to break this up into a few sections. So when I build a DRZ chassis, I like to do milestones. So the front end's one milestone, the rear end's one milestone, getting the electronics on the chassis is another milestone, and then building the suspension and, you know, getting the wheels, suspension, and then also setting your ride height and all that, because you need to have your electronics loaded onto the chassis before you even start to think about that kind of stuff. So that's how I want to do this video, is I want to have this as the first video, then I want to have a video going over the rear end and how to build it, you know, basically how to build this exact car, but, you know, we'll do it from the ground up. And then the third video will be, you know, putting the electronics on the chassis and then fine tuning. So that's my goal for the videos. We'll see how it all goes. But anyways, so real quick, now that I have this front end assembled, I wanted to talk about a few things on it, because this front end, these ball caps I have on here did not come with this kit. Actually, they came on this DRZ version 2, my limited edition chassis. I don't know why this one came with the really good ball heads and this one didn't. So that's the first thing I want to note is, guys, there's two styles of Atomic 2mm ball heads. So see, these are the exact same ball caps, but they're very different. I mean, they're the same size, but see, this one's flatter and this one's shinier. And these shiny ones, I've noticed that, see how it's tapered right there, where the linkage goes into the actual ball head, as opposed to this one, it's not as tapered. Having that tapered edge on it, guys, I noticed it gives me better clearance on my ball heads. So it makes it so that the chassis can actually fully droop like this. Before, when I had the other ones on, I'll try to show a video of it, it was basically like frozen halfway and it had zero travel. So that's the first thing I want to recommend, is getting these better ball caps, better ball heads. I think they're with the MRT/MRZ. I'm not 100% sure, because I reached out to Kim and he actually sent me a pack of them instead of telling me what they came in. So anyways, thank you Kim for sending me these ball heads. Truly appreciate it, bro. But guys, when you're building your DRZs, make sure you build them with these ball caps. They're the exact same size, but they just are 100 times better. You see these ones also, there's no marks on them. I don't have to fit them. I don't have to do anything. And look how free this thing is. So like, if you could see this one in here, see how it's chewed up from the tweezers squeezing it. So these ones out here, they didn't need that massaging of the ball heads to get them perfect. They're perfect right out of the box. So that's a huge tip I want to give you guys, is your linkages make a world of difference on your chassis. So that's the first thing. And then, so second thing I want to talk about, guys, is your shim jobs when you're building your chassis. So if you guys see my arm, it barely moves back and forth, and on this side, it barely moves back and forth. But it's still free. So when you're building your chassis, you want to eliminate as much slop as possible, because if your chassis has any bit of wobble in there, it'll create a little bit of vibration. Your gyro will pick it up and it'll cause chatter. And that's something that we want to truly avoid. So I've noticed on my chassis, I've gone pretty crazy with my shim jobs on them, you know, eliminating all the play. So that way my arms are just more stable. Your car's more stable. But this one over here, it has 4 shims. This one has 5. I went psycho with this one. So in the future, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it, because that is one thing, is you want to shim out your chassis as much as possible, but you also want to make sure that they're extremely free like this. But still, even when they're 100% free like that, you can still, when they're running, you can run into issues of binding. So that's something I'm gonna have to keep an eye on my chassis, is to see if this front end's gonna bind at all. And if it does bind, then what I'm gonna do is remove these rear shims to give it a little bit more wiggle room up here in the front, so that way it doesn't bind. And then also down here on these lower arms, I have Teflon taped the ball heads down here, so that way they don't rattle back and forth. And then you can't really see it, sorry for bumping you guys, can't really see it, but there's actually a couple washers in there too, of these size CVD ones. These, not CVD, I don't know why I called them CVD, but these size shims, I put a couple of them in there, and then I made it so, see, there's really zero movement at all, back and forth, and then side to side. they don't move. So like I said, it eliminates that chatter. It eliminates the vibrations in your front of your car. And it really does make a world of difference on your chassis to actually go through the steps of doing this. So those are what I wanted to really quick highlight. Well, it's 5 minutes, it's not quick, but I just wanted to highlight, guys, biggest things when you're building your front end is your ball caps. And then after that, your shim jobs, upper arms, lower arms, and then make sure everything's as even as you can side to side. You know, you want to pretty much set it up neutral like that, and then you want to try to make sure that your linkages are all somewhat even, and then we can fine tune everything later on. So anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about for the front end of the car, and let's go ahead and get into this build. Look at that, guys. Like zero play. Not bad. Not bad. Atomic. This is exactly what I wanted to see. Look at all this aluminum. I wish this in the kit was aluminum. I thought it was going to be aluminum. I would have ordered one, but whatever. Either way, this steering crank is a huge, huge upgrade. So for those who didn't know, the steering crank lines up with the original one's holes. So when you have it in these outer holes, you just have the normal configuration. And then you can either, you know, increase or decrease Ackerman, I believe, by changing the holes.
All right, so now we're at an important part. So putting on these front arms, the most important thing is this pin is going to be our pivot point. So what you want to do is make sure when you put your lower arm in there, see how smooth this thing is? See how free it is? Just it'll completely rattle, wobble back and forth. So that's good. So this side's fine. Let's check the other side. There we go. That was actually what I was hoping for. So see how that one's stiff and it doesn't freely spin. That was exactly what I was hoping for. So when you have an, if you would have just installed this on your car and one side is stiff like this and the other side is free, what would happen is this side would catch and it would have all kinds of issues on it. So what you want to do is sand it so that this part is smooth. And I'll show you what you do. So you just cut super thin piece of sandpaper. This is like 600 grit, and you roll it up super, super tight. Felts like that. Let's see if this is small enough. Might need to take a little more off of it. Nope. All right, we got it in there. And you just spin it. Spin it so that way the paper wants to open. Like spin it, you know what I mean? Like spin it like the opposite of tightening it. I don't know. You guys know what I mean. Just kind of work it around. So we're trying to smooth out this channel, not necessarily remove material, but more polish it just so that way if there's anything in here that's catching, we'll smooth it out. So his first run, initial test fit. Let's see. Sorry, bumping the camera. So now, look at that. You know, 10 seconds of sanding, 10 seconds of fitting, and now it just flops. Just like this side. Beautiful. Now they're ready to install. So this new LE kit comes with these steel pivot balls, which is really, really cool. Be interesting to see how these are. Because in this build, I had to actually wrap Teflon tape around the plastic ball heads because they were loose. So my other DRZ has some Teflon tape up in there. So I'm wondering if these steel ball heads are gonna have a better fitment than the plastic. It'll be interesting. Let's see. All right. So I have these two plates tightened down super, super tight so that way nothing's moving around, and see how these flop? It's exactly what you want out of this front end, but look. We got play. And on this side we got play. So we're gonna need to shim it. So since there was a lot of play, we're gonna start with 4 pins. I mean four shims on our pins, I should say. Hang on, let me grab a tool. So now we got the back and forth play pretty much eliminated. This side's stiff though, see? So this side, we need to sand the shims. This side, we're okay, but we have rocking. See that rocking? So just like that other build, I'm gonna have to put Teflon on that ball. This side, looks like it's not rocking. We don't got rock, so that's good, but we're gonna have to sand it. So again, we take it apart. .600 grit paper again. One of the shims. Two of the shims. So what I found to be the most effective way to sand shims is to get some little tweezers like this, stick them inside the shim, spread them out a little bit, and then kind of put pressure as evenly as you can and push it. Watch. See, if you push it too far on the tip, you'll just scrub that. But if you actually push it flat, you can see the streak from the shim, and then you can take it and push it back the other direction. And in my opinion, it's sanding it evenly, especially if you just kind of rotate your sandpaper and you just keep pushing it straight forward, but in different directions, you'll kind of hit it evenly. I don't know, somewhat. This is my approach to sanding shims. So sand one side. And again, we're not removing a whole lot of material. What we're really doing is we're polishing. So that one should be good for testing. And this one flipped in the air, so I don't know what direction's up. I'm just gonna kind of hit it. That should be good for testing purposes. All right. So that side was the stiff side. It's been polished. And this side was the side that was loose. So what we want to do for this side is get this steel ball head. So this side needs work. And now this side will need work. But the most important thing, no back and forth wobble. See, we're not rocking either. We're not rocking. And we've got a little back and forth wobble, so we just gotta free these up. No problem. So, hit sandpaper again. All right, I finally got these arms to a point that I'm happy with them, but I just wanted to show you guys real quick. This is the second day I've been working on this chassis, and this is all the sandpaper I've gone through making these shims, because literally these things are so tiny up in here. I've lost 2 of these shims. Like as I was sanding, they just went ping, flew off the desk, and you know, that's fun because then you get to restart sanding from scratch. And there's so little play in here that literally these things are so thin, the shims in there. I've removed so much material from them so that way I could sandwich 2 of them, front and back. But then also, if you guys can see in there, I went and Teflon taped both side ball heads just so that way there's no rattling. And look at this. I mean, there's no back and forth play. There's no side to side wobble. Side to side wobble is the biggest issue. But, you know, see my steel ball heads, they stay in there. We don't have any rocking back and forth. And then as far as like moving back and forth, that tiniest bit, just so that way it's still free. And watch. You know? On the other side. See how it just pivots back and forth and it'll just dangle? That's what you want. But it's also super solid, you know? Not going to have any issues. It's not going to bind, and it's not going to wobble. So now that I have this built, we can move on. All right, so once you have your lower arms installed, there's no wobble in them, and they're nice and smooth, nice and free, just flopping about like this. Then you can move on and put the bulkhead on, but I would say take care of these before you put this bulkhead on, because it's just another layer of complexity and another thing that's pushing down, adding more force onto it. So get these nice shimmed and smooth and then move on. So in the manual, the next thing it says to work on is your linkages, but personally, I think you should start with the lower arms, then do your upper arms, then you can focus on the linkages later. I think this is the second most important part. Lower arms are super important, but so are these. So what we want to do with these ones is just like the lower arms, the pin is what is our pivot point, right? So this is going to be our pivot point, and you need to make sure that when this feeds into this arm, it's completely free. So grab something like this, hold it, and then just make sure, see, there's no sticking in it. You know, you basically just want to make sure that it completely rattle. So this arm's good. Let's check this arm. This one's pretty smooth too. Okay. Just double check it. And so like I said, guys, do the flop test. Make sure it flops. Down, up, down, up, down, up. If it gets stuck at the top, that's just gravity because you can twist it, you know? So anyways, these arms are good, but if this arm wasn't good, say we put this in here and it didn't flop, what you want to do is, again, roll up some paper, some sandpaper, make it super, super tight, stick it in there and just kind of spin it around. I spin it so that the paper wants to open up, so that way it kind of fills the hole somewhat evenly, and then you just keep sanding it. So I've had to do that on all my other chassis. I've had to sand the upper arms, but this one, I mean, luckily I got pretty lucky here. So the first step is just making sure that your pins and arms are completely free, and mine are. So then the next step that you want to move on to is shimming. So in the manual, it says only put 2 shims up there, but in my builds, guys, as you can see, I got 3 shims up front, and then 1 shim in the rear. I don't know if you guys, if it really picks up on camera, but 1 in the front, 1 in the rear, 2 up front. And that's just so that way I have it spaced out so that my chassis has no play. See, 0 play, but it's absolutely free as can be. So that's what we're gonna do with this thing, is we're gonna go ahead and start adding shims and see at what point it becomes too many shims. So give me a second. All right, see, I got the shims installed on this first arm. I have 1 in the back. I don't think you can really see it, just for spacing. I don't know if I clarified that previously, that you make sure, I always make sure I have 1 in the back. Once I start adding shims, I always put 1 in the back for spacing, and then you can put as many as you want in the front. But if you have this 1 in the back and you don't touch it for sanding, then on left and right sides, if you know you have 1 in the rear, then your spacing should be about okay. You know what I mean? So anyways, so on this one, so we have 1 in the back and 3 up front. Can you see those 3 shims in there? And look, we still got some movement. So I think I can fit 1 more shim in there. Do you guys see that? Boom, 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 boom. It's about space for 1 shim, but it's really tedious trying to get the shims to fit in there. So that's why I'm doing that part off camera, because it literally takes me like 5-10 minutes to get these dang shims in there. And then don't even get me started once you have to start sanding them. But anyways, it's well worth it, guys. Take the time at these steps. Don't just rush it. All right, I got the shims on both sides, as you guys can see. I mean, the arms just completely flop, 100% free, both sides, 0 issues, and 0 play whatsoever, 0 play. I got 4 shims stacked up front. I don't know why this thing won't focus. I got 4 shims stacked on this side, 4 shims stacked on this side, 1 shim in the rear, 1 shim in the rear. And for this side to get all 4 to fit, I actually had to sand every single shim just a little bit to make it so that way I could get it to fit. So, you know, these pieces of sandpaper right here were literally just for this left side, just getting these ones all worked down so that way it would fit. But guys, check it out. I mean, shoot, proof's in the pudding. Look at that. 0 play. But we flop. So now that I got that on, move on to the next part. I could install it right now, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get the knuckles built. And anyways, yeah, we'll see.